Hello everyone, my name is John Tingley. I go by jonny523eagle on the PlayStation 4 console. Today I wanted to do an informal interview slash resume slash highlight reel for the 2K League. I just kind of wanted to help the general managers and directors of the league get to know me a little bit, wanted to answer a few questions, and just take it upon myself to give a little information about myself. I wanted to touch upon offense, defense, why the 2K League should draft me, how I can contribute to the league and the organization that drafts me, what I would do on and off the court for the league and the organization. I hope this video as a whole answers why the 2K League should draft me, but I will answer that question directly at the end of the video. But to get things started, I wanted to answer a question that I feel is very important for my situation. Most professional athletes get this question when doing interviews, and normally it's not the focal point of the interview, but it is a fun question and a fun answer. But in my situation, I feel it's very important to address this. I'm a 6'1", 165-pound shooting guard, and I'm a playmaking shot creator. All right, and the reason why I want to answer the specific question of who do I model my game after and who my influences are, well, the answer to that question is what most people would call generic, but it's Allen Iverson. So when I tell people my height and size, the first thing that I get is negative feedback, and a lot of times it's that's so undersized, or you'll get dominated, or that's a mismatch, how can you play like that? Let me explain. I grew up watching Allen Iverson, right? I watched him, and I watched his career, okay? And I feel like a lot of the younger generation watched him in his later years, where he was a point guard for like Detroit and Denver, and then they see the highlight reels of the crossover on Jordan, which he was a point there, because he got drafted into the league as a point guard. But in the prime of his career, he was actually a shooting guard. Now, he'd bring the ball up, and he would bring the ball up if he was going to be the one taking the shot or nobody else was going to touch the ball. But for the most part, when they ran plays out of offensive sets, he was the shooting guard. And that was a mismatch in itself. So when people say those things, those feedbacks, or the feedback I get, I think it's from the perspective of how they're going to play me, and they see the size and the weight as something that is going to work in their favor to pure dominance, I guess, is the perspective I see them seeing that. But really, I find it the opposite way around. Whether it be in comp games, pro or amateur team games, or just straight walk-on, what I find myself being matched up against is a 6'5" or taller pure sharp, pure slasher, two-way sharp, or a sharpshooting slasher, one of those things. And right off the bat, the advantage I have is speed and acceleration, and sometimes stamina. And I'll elaborate on that too, but before we go into the mismatch that I create and the headache that I create, what I want to say is I watch a lot of live streams, and I see the playmaking shot creator, and it's primarily a build out of the one spot, the point guard, and it's a 5-out offense, and they rely on their dribbling and their step backs and their spin moves to create some separation and to get a look and to get a shot. And if somebody plays help D, they kick it out for the 3. And again, we'll talk about offense here in a little bit, but that's how they're using that build, and I don't use my build like that. When I say Allen Iverson, I truly mean I've mastered the ability, I've crafted and mastered the ability to replicate his style of gameplay in a virtual video game. What an organization is getting, if they draft me, is a virtual Iverson out of the 2-guard position. Before we talk about offensive sets and plays, we'll just call it the freelance offense, which is typically what you're going to get in walk-on or lower-ranked pro-am games. The freelance offense. When I'm running a freelance or in a freelance offense with guys that I don't really have chemistry with, or maybe a couple of them are my friends and they know how I play, some chemistry there, but for the most part, it's a freelance offense. What I do, and this will translate to offensive plays and sets as well, but the way I play is basically a replica of Allen Iverson. I let the point guard facilitate the offense, and I hope that he sees the open man. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for the open space on the floor. And with my size, my weight, my speed, my acceleration, my defender is always trailing me. And I can work through traffic. I can get through traffic and come out the other side into the open space that I anticipated before I went to go to that open space. And I hope that the point guard hits me on time for the open mid-range, which is a catch and shoot. And I can do the catch and shoot. Now, if the pass is late, I can rely on my playmaking abilities to create my own shot, whether it be a step back or a runaway fade off the dribble or any of those things, which Allen Iverson does as well. Everybody knows his fadeaway is crucial as well. And I can get to the basket on a layup, which will most likely draw a foul. Sometimes I get the and one. I can shoot the three and I can dunk. But if the pass is late, I can create my own shot, and I won't take too much time trying to do it. I know that the shot clock is there for all of us to try to get an open look, so I will only take a little bit of time to create my opportunity, and then I'll give it to the big man or the point guard, generally the point guard. If the pass does not come after getting to the open space, I just keep moving, and my defender is always trailing. And if I'm just constantly moving around into open spaces all over the floor, generally what happens is I get lost. My defender doesn't know where I am, and I have an open mid-range at some point, and I take it. And normally, this happens on every level, and I can work well within zone. So that is the first replication of Allen Iverson, because if you know Allen or if you watched his games, he's constantly moving and he's using his size and speed as an advantage to the point where he's just in open spaces all the time. Secondly, so everybody knows the Ty Lue step back. I can work the shallow mid, or the step over, basically where he takes the shallow corner shot and Ty Lue falls on the ground, he steps over. Everybody knows that highlight. So I do that extremely well. I do that very, very well. I work both corners, the shallow corners, very, very well. And reverting back to the fadeaway, if that shot's not there, I might curl up to the foul line, take the fadeaway jumper. Again, that's an Iverson trait. Or I can just simply do a difficult layup or get to the rim and draw the foul like Iverson as well. And I excel at the fast break extremely well. And with two playmaking point guards, what you have is a very fast backcourt. Reverting back to my matchups, I wouldn't say I'm underrated. I just feel like, the mismatch, the things that I use in my favor, the way I use this build creates a mismatch in itself, and I create a headache. And to add to that, I can play defense. Yes, I do rely on my big men at times. For the most part, I can play defense pretty well. I just wanted to let the 2K League, any general manager or director that drafts me, I just want them to know what you're getting out of the 2-guard position, which is a virtual Iverson. And I do very well with this build, and I'm very effective. You will have a virtual Iverson at the 2-guard position. So moving on to offense in different sets. So let's start with the 5-out real quick. I can be effective in the 5-out offense. Is it an offense that I would thrive in every trip down? I do not think that would be the case. Now, at the same time, I could be effective. Now, where I'd want to be is in the corner. Obviously, that's where I'm going to take my shot. A three-point shot would be in the corner or the shallow mid-range. I can take the mid-range from the foul, and most importantly, I can be the right-hand man or the bail-out man for the point guard on a reset. So in a 5-out, I can be effective, but you're not utilizing me to my full potential. I think that in a 5-out offense, if you have a lot of movement and off-ball screens, at that point, I would be able to create my own space. The screen would help me get open on the other end in the corner. So, yeah, I think that I could play in a 5-out, and if an offense is running other sets on top of a 5-out, then I would be extremely effective. But every trip down, I think you're kind of smothering my potential. So moving on to a couple sets that I'm intrigued by, the Horns offense and a double post 3-out or even a 4-out intrigues me a lot. Now the 4-out is similar to a 5-out if you're talking about pick and rolls and such like that, but let me elaborate. So the Horns offense, for one, we'll just start right there, okay? So the Horns offense There's one in particular play. You guessed it. It's the Iverson cut. So with the Iverson cut, Iverson would start, and there's a lot. Boston Celtics would run their form of an Iverson cut. You can do it out of a 1-4 high. You can do it out of any set you want. But in particular, for me, the Horns offense is what's most intriguing. So the Iverson cut, the one that I'm accustomed to, is the one where Iverson cuts baseline from one corner to the other corner, and he swings up to the wing, gets the pass, goes back down to the corner either for the 3 or the shallow mid-range. All of this is happening while there's a screen underneath the basket and at the wing where he will be catching the ball. The 3 guard swings around the screen at the wing and replaces the 2 guard where he initially started in the corner. So there is some off-ball screens and some on-ball screens. The point guard basically facilitates the offense by holding the ball until the 2 guard swings around to the wing, and the point of the play is to get the open, hopefully mid-range, but if he has to pull the 3, he will. Iverson was notorious for taking this shot. It was either a 3 or a mid-range, and it was a jumper. 9 times out of 10 it was open, but if it was not open, the ball would either be swung back up to the foul line by Iverson or kicked to the point guard or even the big that set the screen underneath the bucket. That's just one play within the Horns offense that I'm intrigued by because of my ability to take those shots on where I'd be getting the ball. Now, within the Horns offense, though, when I see where everybody's positioned at in the Horns offense with my build, I see nothing but opportunity. You have the 4 and the 5 at the elbows of the foul line, and then the 3 and the 2 are deep in the corners. All that space from the corners to the hoop and the foul line, all that is shot opportunity for my build at the 2 guard position. With my speed and acceleration, I will be able to get to that open space pretty much at will. And if you're using the 4 and the 5 to set off ball screens, it's even more deadly for my build. Moving on to the double post or the 3 out. Again, off ball screens for the shallow mid-range and the corner shots. The double post, it's actually kind of common in walk-on, especially if you have 2 big men that are like some kind of post scorer or rebounder or something. It's pretty much kind of what you're running already in a freelance offense. So the double post is not very far off from what's being used in a non-chemistry team. But when I see an organized double post or 3 out, what I see, again, is a ton of opportunity to get in those free space areas coming off of an off-ball screen. Whether the 4 or the 5 steps up and sets an off-ball screen as I'm coming out of the corner or something of that nature. Now, these are all things that intrigue me because I'm taking the shot, of course. Obviously, if we're talking about how I can contribute within the offense without taking the shot, now we're starting to get into, setting up a screen for another man. I'm not so sure that my height and weight is going to effectively be able to do that. However, I can certainly create a diversion within a play. Them 2 offenses right there intrigue me the most. And if you're going to do the 4 out, then I hope that the off-ball screen would come my way. Like I said, I'm not only talking about plays where I take the shot. I'm just trying to elaborate on what's intriguing to me with this build. As far as the 1-4 high and the 1-4 low, let's start with the 1-4 high. The 1-4 high, a one-on-one situation for me on a cut. You got nothing but space underneath the setup, and a cut situation is just me straight to the bucket. This would go for the 3, the 4, and the 5. And then, of course, more elaborate plays that would be drawn up as well. And finding the open floor on a catch-and-shoot situation. And then the 1-4 low is kind of the same situation, just using my speed and taking a shallow midi or, a foul line shot. Again, speed would be my main friend. Now, if you're talking more motion within these sets, more screens, a very complex screen system, now you're talking about opening up more opportunities for everyone and not just myself. So with these sets in mind, it leads me to my next point within the 2K League. These things take chemistry. That is probably the most passionate thing going through me right now, is the fact that the chemistry needed within a team to bring home a championship, the chemistry needed in the bond with the guys and your teammates coming together and knowing everybody's strengths and weaknesses. That is the most appealing thing to me with this league right now. To know that if this is the direction the 2K League is heading in, I want nothing more than to contribute as much as I can to that, and to pave the way for showing others that these offenses can be ran and organization is the way. Okay, so moving on to defense. Let's move on to defense real quick, and then I'll move on to the more personal stuff. But defensively, so of course you got man defense. Pretty self-explanatory as far as just manning up, clamp D. My brother and I, we play together. He's in a lot of these clips. It's anything ball. He's the point guard. When we play, we do switch sometimes. We just have that chemistry where we know if we're going to get stuck on each other or the screen, just switch. We don't even have to communicate it out. We just do it. But we try not to switch. And if you see the defensive clips that I start reeling here, I stay well under the screen. So I play off-ball D, okay? So unless it's a pure sharp, then I don't give them much cushion. But for the most part, I stay under the screens. I float side to side and use my lateral quickness as an advantage on defense. And here's where that mismatch theory does not hold its water. I float. I just shuffle. Use my lateral quickness to shuffle, and I do not let my guy come inside the paint. I do not give him an opportunity to get to my big men on a dunk or a layup. Now, if it's a pure sharp, it just depends on how he's playing. If he's a pure sharp just looking for the open three and he's not doing anything too crazy, I just clamp him up. If he's doing the zigzagging and whatnot, then I just play the off-ball hand. So basically, I do not let him zigzag back to the direction that he just came from, forcing him to go deeper and deeper into the corner until he has to pass the ball. Now, this doesn't always work, but that's how I play a pure sharp. I can run zone. On a 2-3, I would prefer to have the right side on a 2-3. That's where I feel most comfortable. The point guard and I, again, if it's Josh, we don't really have to communicate too much. Maybe if we accidentally over-rotate or something, we might call that out. But, this is a chemistry thing, of course. And then in a 3-2, I would like to play the right side as well. And again, there's a little bit more communication in a 3-2 versus the 2-3. I think in a 2-3, when I'm playing with somebody that I've played with before, the communication is not really necessary. But in a 3-2, it's a little bit more necessary, especially if the bigs are crashing too much or something like that. So the rotation on those defenses, I've been burnt before, but for the most part, I feel like I'm pretty strong in those departments as well. And this is coming from a 6'1", 165-pound shooting guard. So, to be that efficient on defense and to pump out the numbers on offense, I would have to say that's more than efficient. And, I want to help my teammates get the win. And, if something's on me, then I call it out in game. If I'm having problems with a guy, we can switch. But I'm very, very, very vocal on what I'm struggling with. So when the game comes down to the wire in them crunch time minutes, we have it figured out. I don't like a loss being on my shoulders. I feel like when you come together as a team, you can overcome everything. And if everybody played to the best of their ability, called out their weaknesses, called out their strengths, and communicated, and you still get the loss, then at the end of the day, everybody should know that you did everything you could, if that makes any sense. You did everything you could. To have the loss on your shoulders is something that I don't like doing. If there was 3 or 4 things in there that I didn't call out because I just didn't call it out, if I got beat every time they were doing this or every time they were doing that, at the end of the game, everybody is taking their blame, but you're kind of hiding those things that you should have called out. To me, that is painful. it almost, I get too hard on myself sometimes, I get too down. So to call out these things in game and to, everybody just do the best they can, making adjustments, and at the end of the game, if you take the loss, then you know that you gave it your all. You left it all out on the court. So, but we kind of got off subject there a little bit. Let me move on. So, my knowledge for the controller. Okay, so my knowledge for the controller, I have quick reactions. The animations that I see on the screen, I know I've become accustomed to them, especially with my build. I've pretty much seen all the animations. I've played hundreds and hundreds and probably close to thousands of games by now. The animations, I've seen them, with my controller. For example, if I get into an open space and the pass comes to me and my guy does not turn around and face the hoop real quickly, it's probably advisable not to pull that because of how long it's taking him to turn around. That would be an example of knowing the animations and knowing your controller. Your shot meter is going to go much, much slower because it's an off-balance turnaround shot. So as far as my controller goes, I know that I need to replant or sidestep or some kind of movement to get my guy facing in the right direction. So I'm very knowledgeable of my controller on pretty much on dribbling, step backs. I can do moves, all these things that you need to know about your controller, and quick reactions. I do not delay. For another example would be the fast break situation. When I play with big men and they get the rebound, and R1X as the camera's flipping around is almost mandatory, or else the ball will go out of bounds. So when that happens, now if they don't R1X and they just hit X and I'm at half court as my point guard is, or not quite half court, but as my point guard is over the half point line and I'm the one that catches the ball, hitting X right away is mandatory to keep the fast break going. I'm the relay man. These are all things that I'm knowledgeable of just playing the game and picking up on things that are happening in game. You got to go with the flow of the game. If things are falling your way, you can be a little bit more lackadaisical. I don't know what word you want to use, but you can kind of let off the pedal a little bit, and you don't want to take dumb shots. I'm just saying that you don't have to stick strictly to the basics until crunch time. You can get that lead. You guys can have some fun and play and build some chemistry. Maybe do some things that you normally wouldn't do, just to see if they would work. Test the waters a little bit. But when crunch time comes around, you got to get to the fundamentals. You got to get back to buckling down on defense and playing solid, resetting on offense, moving the ball around, calling out plays, doing these things, communication. When crunch time is there and it's a close game, these things are critical. So I can feel the flow of a game. I can tell when there's a mismatch going on, and I can also tell when there's a battle within a battle. So for example, I had a game in walk-on where it was a close game, and in the third quarter, all of a sudden the game within the game was the two shooting guards, and I loved it because it was fun, it was entertaining for me. And it was a matchup between the two shooting guards. He was the one taking the shots, and I was the one taking the shots, and we were also playing defense against each other. So that was a battle within a battle. And these things take a little bit of IQ to recognize. Once you recognize something like that, you got the battle, which is the game. Maybe it's 65 to 63 or something, or maybe it keeps going back and forth, something intense like that. But the people that are touching the ball the most or getting the most opportunity or taking the shots are two guys going against each other. That's the battle within the battle. To recognize that takes a little bit of IQ as well. And when these things get recognized, the team that recognizes it at first and makes adjustments to exploit it is the team that will most likely come out on top. So these are the IQ things that I feel like I can bring to an organization as well within the 2K game itself. So that was kind of controller / 2K and my knowledge for the game. And there, of course, there's a lot more, and I'm open to more questions. I don't want to elaborate on it too much. But so moving on to what would I do as a public figure for an organization and the league? For starters, let me just start by saying this. This would go for an organization and the league itself. If I got drafted, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of athletes is when they go to do a pre-game show. Now I'm thinking football for some reason, and I'm just being humble and honest here. I think of football for some reason, and there's a reason why, and I'm going to tell you in just 1 second. When I think of a professional athlete, the first thing I think of when they're in the position, I always told myself, if I'm in this position, what I'm going to do is utilize the position to help others that are not so fortunate. And I don't mean others that, you could help other 2K players, but I'm going deeper than that. I see charity events going on. I see giving back to the public and the community in which they came from, that athlete came from. These things I see on the pregame show. It always gets me in the mood to watch the game, not just from this team versus that team perspective, but from I'm kind of rooting for that guy I seen at the beginning of the game. Okay, so let me elaborate on how I got to this, and then I'll kind of sum it up. But there's one athlete in particular that really touched me this year, and just pretty much reinstated the fact that if I was ever in this position, I would do the same exact thing. And this is well before 2K even released, the 2K18 even released. Carson Wentz. And this little boy, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but this little boy, he was in the hospital, and Carson went and seen him. And to sum it up, long story short, Carson made this little boy's dream come true. And Carson went out on the field that very week wearing the wristband that this little boy gave him. Okay? And they seen it on TV. They come running out of the tunnel, and Carson had his number one finger up, holding it up as he's coming out of the tunnel. And right there on his wrist is the wristband that this boy, and the boy's watching the game from his home or from the hospital and watching the game, and the family is crying, and they're just, it meant so much to this little boy, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now. That, to me, made that little boy's dream come true. And that was such, and I'm a Philadelphia fan, but I don't mean to be biased, but he just, it just made me like Carson that much more. And I'm not going to say any names, but there's certain athletes out there where I'm kind of turned off by their attitude within the game as it's happening and it unfolding. Reverting to another example, pre-game, we're watching pre-game, and an athlete, there's a segment on there about an athlete doing something similar. Maybe the whole team goes, maybe it's Christmas holiday, Toys for Tots, they all come in there, and then you see some kind of emotional story go on, and then the game starts, and it's not a team. You don't follow this team, you don't follow the other team, but now you're focusing on the player that you've seen pre-game do this charity or this giving back to the community work, and you almost focus on him in game with this emotional connection that you hope he does well. And I always told myself, if I was in that position, I would do the same thing, because every time somebody watched me, whether they're streaming these events for the 2K League on the internet or there's televised, I would want the same thing. When you're doing these things with that type of attention on you, it will inspire others to do the same. And in the meantime, what you get in return is knowing that the people view you as this public figure that cares, and not so much of a diva, which like I said, I'm not going to elaborate on any other names on who divas are. You can decide for yourself who that is within the professional sports community. But I always told myself that if I was blessed enough to be able to do that, it connects everyone on different levels. You are satisfied, they are satisfied, everybody has an emotional connection, and it becomes a bond, and it becomes stronger. And to me, the 2K League and any league for that matter needs that element to it in order to continue to grow. So that's kind of what, and that's just for the organization and for the league. The organization that would draft me and for the league. Also, I would definitely conduct myself in a professional manner to the point where I'm respected throughout the community, and I'm always there to help others coming up, which leads me to my next question: what do I want to gain from the league? Well, these things that I just mentioned, I find fulfillment out of those things that I just mentioned with giving back, but also finding fulfillment in helping the league grow, and then to create opportunity for myself within the league and within the industry. It doesn't just stop with playing for an organization. I know everybody has a life shelf, or a lifespan within these types of things. So to create opportunity for myself outside, to continue to grow after my playing days are done, and to stay within the league, and to contribute on a different level, to grow within the industry, and to be a part of the 2K League on a much higher level. A simple version or a simple example of this would be somebody playing for 10 plus years in a professional sport, and then the next thing you know, you see them on a pre-game or post-game show, and they're either a reporter or some form of the media, or maybe they go into a front office role, but something of that nature. I carry other talents outside of 2K. I do graphic design and animation and things of that nature. So to contribute and to give back and to also grow, those are the things that I'm looking to gain from the 2K League. And then right off the bat, what I would like to gain from the 2K League, the day that I step foot into an organization, immediately is to grow a bond with the teammates around me and the general manager, and to get accustomed to the scenery, and to get settled in as fast as I possibly can, and to build a friendship with those around me. That way, when the season starts, we're off to a great positive start. So that's the more immediate what to gain, and I find fulfillment in that. I love meeting new people, especially if they're respectable and humble. Those are the type of people I want to be around, and I have full 100% trust in the league that they're going to put those things together. So, and then lastly, why should the 2K League draft me? Well, hopefully this video answered that question in depth, but to sum it up, why the 2K League should draft me is what I can offer in-game for the organization. Virtual Iverson, to bring a dimension that I feel truly will be difficult to defend, and to help an organization and to contribute to a championship. I feel like I can fit into any organization that gives me an opportunity, and I feel like I can be a leader or a role player depending on what I'm called upon to do, and to help be that locker room guy, and to help the league grow and to be a great figure, and a good positive person to turn to when it comes to the public eye, and to represent the league in a very respectable way, and to give it my all, and to work hard, and to put in the necessary hours. My 2K hours currently, I've been blessed with the opportunity to really give this league a go. I'm a seasonal worker, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to really craft my skills on this game. My current hours are from 8 a.m. to right around 11 a.m. I take an hour off, and then I'm back on it at about noon, and I'm on until about 4, and then I'll get back off, spend some time with my family, and then I'll get back on at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'll be on till about 2 o'clock. So as you can see, right now, due to my seasonal working, I already treat this like a full-time job, and it's simply because of the fact that I've fully committed myself to the 2K League, and I really hope that the 2K League can see that I have huge potential and upside. I don't want to make this video any longer than what it is. So why the 2K League should draft me is because I feel like I'm the type of person you're looking for. I've spent a lot of time on this video in particular, and that's just one thing after crafting my skills, and I do feel like my skills are good enough to be within the league, and I think that I can benefit the league the 2K League more than just on the in between the sticks and on the on the controller. Basically, I got so much more to offer. So I thank you for watching this video. If you need to contact me or if you have any other questions, you can follow me on Twitter at jonny523eagle. My YouTube channel is Virtual Iverson. I am on Facebook. I will put my contact information below. I do play on the PlayStation 4 consoles, and I'm very open to learning the Xbox One as well. And I hope that I see everybody next month. I hope I get an opportunity to play with everyone, and I hope that everybody brings their A game, and I hope that everybody is as thrilled about this opportunity as I am. And I want to thank the general managers and the directors and everybody within the organization for giving me the opportunity to present this video to them. And I really appreciate it. And I hope to speak with all of you soon. And have a good day. Thank you. I'm swagging, I'm balling, I have a song on you.